Okay, I'd like to call the Upper Moreland Township regular meeting, March 6, 2026, to order. First thing would be a moment of silence, please. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call. Matt, could you take roll?
Sure. Ward 1? Present. Ward 2? Here. Ward 3? Here. Ward 4?
Here.
Ward 5?
Here.
Ward 6? And Ward 7?
Here.
Mr. President, Commissioner Valenza is under the weather, but other than Commissioner Valenza, all commissioners are present.
Okay, thank you. Next, presentations. We have service awards for some of our employees and their years of service. Ms. Lockhart, would you take care of this? So the reading.
First, we're going to recognize Doug Sampson for 30 years with the township. Doug began his career with Upper Moreland Township's Public Works Department in 1992 as a laborer. Doug is currently a heavy driver and drives a sanitation truck. Doug is responsible for making sure that the weekly trash waste collection is collected efficiently and safely. Doug also salts and plows the roads in the winter months. Doug's not here tonight.
Yeah, Doug was unable to make it.
Next, Don Seaton, also 30 years of service with the township. Don began his career with Upper Moreland Township in 1992. Don currently operates one of the township's automated recycling trucks. Don has also worked with the highway paving crew as a laborer. Don also salts and plows the roads in the winter months. Don also is not here tonight. We thank him also. And finally, also not here is Karen O'Brien, 25 years of service. Karen began her career with Upper Moreland Township's Parks and Recreation Department in 1997 as a part-time secretary. Karen then moved to full-time working in the Codes Enforcement Department. Karen spent 18 years working in the Codes Enforcement Department as the zoning secretary before returning to the Parks and Recreation Department as a full-time secretary. Karen's duties were revised in 2021 and now serves as the Parks and Recreation Secretary, while also serving as the township's receptionist. Next, we would like to recognize, and he is here tonight, Matt Moyer for 30 years of service. Matt began his career with Upper Moreland Township's Public Works Department in 1992 as a laborer. Matt is currently an equipment operator in the Public Works Department. He spends most of his time operating the township's compost facility. Matt also worked as a heavy truck driver for the Sanitation and Highway Department.
Okay, Matt, if you would come up. If you'd come out. Picture. Sure. Todd will take a picture.
Oh, sorry. Congrats.
As they're getting ready, just a lot of people know, Matt, I've known about 50 years. 58 years. His brother played football, Kevin, myself, who else? Other commissioners. Sam, and Joe, all played. That's how long he's been here, that we've known.
Over 10 that year.
But in recognition of 30 years of dedicated service to Upper Moreland Township, presented on the 6th day of March in the year 2023. Thank you for being out there all the time when we need you in the storms and everything else. Thanks, Matt.
I was going to get off the stage for a second.
Next, we'd like to recognize Mike Fisher for 15 years of service. Mike began his career with Upper Moreland Township's Public Works Department as a medium truck driver in 2007. Mike is currently a senior equipment operator for Public Works. Mike operates the excavation equipment and runs the paving machine during paving season. Mike has also driven heavy trucks for the Sanitation and Highway Department.
Thank you. Mike. In recognition of 15 years of dedicated service to Upper Moreland Township presented on this 6th day of March in the year 2023. Thank you for all you do, especially in storms and everything else that you have to deal with. I do want to say all the public works guys and even the parks guys, when we have these snowstorms in prior years, not this year, and all of our bad weather situations, they're out there all night, sometimes 24 hours, maybe even up to 30 hours sometimes. And we do appreciate what they do.
Last time you said that, we left here with snow cover.
That's right.
It's still March. You never know.
Yes,
You never know.
there's gonna snow up north tonight.
Okay, wait for Charles, I'm sorry. Okay, next, do I have a motion to remove the table on the open of public hearing 1961, a continuance from February 6th
So
meeting?
moved.
We have the motion, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Abstain? Okay. Sean, if you lead us from here.
Sure. Well, thank you very much, President McFatridge. If you may recall, after our last meeting, we were kind of charged with going back and talking to the applicant's attorney related to conditions that might be agreeable to both the board and the applicant for the Federal Realty project. This morning had the opportunity to speak to you, President McFatridge, to kind of get some feedback and some guidance there. Alex Baumler from my office had the opportunity to speak to Mr. Garrity earlier today, and unfortunately, I don't think we have anything crystal clear as far as we know. So maybe Mr. Garrity could basically say what his client would agree to on the record and how they would approach that, see if that is satisfactory to the board. If not, we can see if there are other things they would agree to that might be satisfactory, and or continue the hearing and do a more comprehensive rewrite of the ordinance. So, yeah.
Thank you, Sean.
Yeah.
Members of the board, the last time we were here, we heard you very, very loud and clear about the height issue and wanting to be perfectly sure that there would not be another building on this property across the street of this height. And I had said that we would be willing to agree that there would only be the one building at the 85-foot height, and the rest of the property would be subject only to the existing ordinance. I guess I'm happy to report that Federal has agreed to go even further, and that is to say that there will not be another building on the height that uses, on the property, I'm sorry. There will not be another building on the property that uses any of the bonus provisions in your ordinance, so that if in the event that there ever is another building on this property, to be used partially for residential purposes, it will not be able to exceed 45 feet. So we're down from 85 to 45 on the property, and I put it in writing. I'll give a letter to Matt, which says exactly what I just said, and I'll give another copy to Sean.
Thank you.
And I have extra copies for the board if you want it.
I think we're good.
Okay. And basically, as you know, none of these structures are permitted without a conditional use. So what the letter says is that we will agree to a condition on the first, our present project, that there will not be any other building that incorporates residential on the property unless it forgoes all of the bonus provisions in your ordinance. And that is not only the ordinance under consideration, but that is also the ordinance as it exists today, because as it exists today, I could apply for the bonus provisions to get to 65 feet, and I'll forego that as well. Or I shouldn't say I will, federal will. And so that in the event, and who knows what the future is going to bring in terms of retail or anything else, in the event we decide, 5 years, 10 years from now or whatever, that we've got to come in to you and ask, then that condition, that building is going to have to be 45 feet unless you beg us to go higher.
And so a couple of things just for clarity for the board, because I know the board will have some questions. Mr. Garrity, go back and forth. And I know one of the questions specifically Commissioner Lockhart asked, when the ordinance was redrafted and Moreland Road portion was added into it, what would happen to conditional use apply to that potential development of that property, just so we flush it out?
That is part of our tract, so that property would be subject to the 45-foot restriction that's embodied in the letter that I just gave to Matt and Sean, so that if there ever was a building in that location, it would be limited to 45 feet.
And you would, besides just a condition, as part of that condition, you would agree to deed restrictions, laying that all out so it was clear to run with the land?
We can, if the board really insists on deed restriction, we can do that. Our only real hesitancy on that is delay, further delay. We've been at this with you and with cooperation for a very, very long time. We haven't even prepared a conditional use application yet, let alone land development plans. And if you want something that says, Jim has submitted this letter and all future owners of the property need to be aware that any further mixed-use development on this property beyond the one that we've been talking about is limited to 45 feet.
But, excuse me, I just want to ask, couldn't you come in at a future time and ask us to amend the ordinance again or do a text?
I can always do that, but whenever...
But if we had a deed restriction or some other change, it would be harder for the new commissioners, the next commissioners to change that.
The commissioners, generally speaking, have discretion, and if the deed restriction were enforceable by the commissioners could likewise have the discretion to ignore the deed restriction.
Okay.
So, I mean,
There's no guarantee other than everybody's good word.
That is true.
There's a guarantee.
Any board can change.
No, so we can, well, that's the reason why I asked for the deed restriction. The deed restriction is a further level, which he basically said that he doesn't like it, but he would essentially agree to it as part of the process. You remember we had the Chipotle issue, and there was a deed restriction on that property up with Mr. Regley's development, and that's why you had to go ahead and lift that deed restriction. This was put on 20-something years ago. If a future board, if this happened with a future board, the same process would have to happen to your successors.
And that's what I was going to say.
And that's why
Any board can do it, it just takes a little longer.
yeah.
But it would be more difficult, that's my point.
An extra step, yes.
Yeah.
I'm advised by Mr. Brennan, who's here from Federal, that we really, really would prefer not to have a deed restriction and to rely on this, because a deed restriction is going to cloud our title and is going to make any sale of the property in the future to someone else, which is not contemplated, much more difficult, whereas I'm not sure it gives you any more power or makes rezoning any less likely.
Well, I think if we don't have a deed restriction, someone had made the point that it's very unlikely that in the future, someone would know to go to these minutes or whatever and remember that. So it seems like the other option then would be to get the text ordinance the way.
Or including your conditional
should be.
use.
Or, I mean, you can impose it in the conditional use.
Well, even
That is what
though,
I'm
who
suggesting.
reads the
That's,
conditional use years later?
That's traceable, but that goes along with the agreement.
the conditional use can be recorded if not.
It could be, a deed restriction is much clearer, I'm not, that's up to them.
I have a question.
I guess maybe I'll just try something. We're agreeing to what you want, right? We understand the concern about having additional buildings at greater than 45 feet. We can't build anything right now above 45 feet without a conditional use. We couldn't build a second building without a conditional use, right? So we have to come back here if we want any additional buildings above 45 feet. But our intent is that we're planning on one building that's seeking this variance, this is essentially the zoning text amendment of 85 feet. Anything else we build on the property, we are saying we're not going to exceed 45 feet. And part of our approvals here is that we will put a conditional use as a carrot or straw, whatever you want to call it, for the future, for anything else on the property. A deed restriction is going to take an exorbitant amount of time and money, and I think we're going to get to the same place at the end of the day, is that we will not build anything else seeking conditional use on the property.
That being said, it'd be much
We can
clearer for a
record it.
future owner, that's all I'm saying.
I hear you.
Yeah.
But that process is lengthy, time consuming and costly, and it's not going to change the outcome. So,
I don't know about that.
okay.
Yeah, the road to hell with good intentions, and
I have a question that's a different kind of topic. So, when I was involved when this town center zoning came on board, and then
Right.
redevelopment was there, and it was reevaluated, and then there was new guidelines imposed, and 65 feet was ordained because it reflected 6 stories. You came to us and said, hey, we need really high first floors for retail. So the 65 feet doesn't even work for the 6 stories anymore. So why does 45 foot work for 4 stories?
I'm not sure it would, but we haven't even started to think about a 4-story or 45-foot tall building. And the 65 feet we're asking for is 65 feet on Park, and all we're asking.
85.
No, hold on.
Okay, go
So
ahead.
we're asking on Park Avenue, right? So we've all, pardon me, we've all seen the renderings and the
Yeah.
elevations, plan time and section drawings. The 6-story building, right now on Park Avenue, as currently laid out in the zoning, could be 65 feet.
Right,
All right, we're asking to go to 72 feet.
Over
right?
Park Avenue.
Over Park.
I agree.
We, unfortunately, because of the topography of our site, are not adding any more floors. The site goes down about 14 feet, and then therefore, at the lower portion of the project into the site, the 6-story is 82 feet, I think, is the final height of the building, above the curb, the sidewalk.
Yeah, I understand that.
If you,
I listened to all the commentary. I
Yep.
was very involved from the start, but I'm saying, like, when you say that you'll be held to the 45 feet, which is the current ordinance, why, if 65 didn't work, 65 doesn't work for 6 stories.
I mean, again, I have my architect here, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, Neil, but at 4 stories, right, you can essentially get 10 feet per floor, plus a grand lobby to get you to 45 feet. It may work 4 stories at 45 feet. What we're suggesting based on our site is that 6 stories at 65 does not work. We will end up making an inferior product.
I got that.
Yep. So, but we haven't done any exploration into a 4-story, 45-foot tall building. It may work, and it may be the best thing for that portion of the property a decade now, because we have leases that, and in fact, we're putting capital, right? Part of this project is to renovate that building, build a building next to it, brand new construction, that will have leases that run 10, 15, 20 years. There's an opportunity for a long time to put additional density on this site.
I support that. I advocate for it. What I'm saying to you is you've identified that this first floor retail, 10 and a half foot doesn't cut it.
Yeah, but, well, so look, I just want to be, clear. We're not putting retail on Park. See, the retail on Park is,
No, I'm talking about the rest of the shopping
Yes.
center. Because we're talking about forever,
correct.
you know?
The
so-
retail we're building in Building F has 20-foot ceilings.
I understand that.
That's where retail unfortunately needs to be in this world to create attractive uses for tenants.
I'm all about it, but I'm saying that, you know, if you're agreeing you're gonna hold yourself to 45 foot in the rest of the shopping center, that doesn't work for 4 stories anymore, because you taught me that.
I'm not sure it does. I mean,
Not for first floor, not with.
yeah, if we do first floor retail.
Talk, you gotta come up to the mic.
Yeah, go ahead, Neil. But we're not sure we do first floor retail on Park, so.
You are correct. So if we wanted to do first floor retail and 3 stories of residential above that, we need at least 48,
There you go.
49 feet.
That's what I'm.
That's
We're not-
correct.
But right now on Park, that's we're not
I get it.
proposing first floor retail along Park. Right, so if we just did a residential lobby deal on Park in a future building, right?
If we just did first floor residential with a lobby, we would probably want 47 feet. Want a little taller at
Exactly.
the first floor. It's very difficult. I mean, we can do straight residential at 45 feet. We can do that. First floor residential at 4
So,
stories.
I'm looking at, you know, the 45 foot and the 65 foot are dinosaurs, you know, so
You are.
I'm just mentioning it.
You
It's a
are
public
correct.
hearing, technically, okay?
We would have to convince you, Kevin, to.
You're not gonna have to convince me. Next guy.
It'd be the next guy to have all of us.
So I appreciate
I understand.
where you're coming
Part of
from.
the board's concern is what, you know, about future, oh, I'm sorry, about future owners. And we're talking about one conditional use, and there's going to be a land development plan, obviously. You can put it on that, because that definitely shows up in title reports, the notes on the land development plan. So if you want to put it again on the land development plan, what's in this letter, that's fine as well. And that's definitely going to provide what's called constructive notice to any buyer of the property at any time. It's just the deed restriction has such a significant effect on market value, even if it's harmless. If it says deed restriction at the top and you try to sell that property, it has a really negative impact on market value of the property.
So, thank you. Sean, I understand it shows up on the title report, but where would it show up for the board to say?
So it should be in your zoning file. Any of those obviously, if there was a note on a plan or anything like that, future boards would be able to see that staff, but it's not as apparent, you know what I mean?
That's my
And over
concern.
time, records,
That is- Right.
Well, it's going to be in your conditional use decision. You're going to have a letter in the file, and it's going to be on the.
Yes, but-
Yeah, like in other projects, no,
So when you go to sell the property, couldn't you come back to the board and ask to have the restriction removed?
Well, we can ask tomorrow for that
Yeah.
restriction to be removed, and you folks will say no.
similar to,
Well, so we're both on the same boat.
yeah, but if in 15 years, but hold on, I just want to, if in 15 years the world is completely different, right, and there is a demand for more or less here, it should be up to the board at that point to grant us future conditional uses if the community, the APA, the CDC, and the board supports it.
I agree with that. I guess I'm not sure that the board will realize that
I
That
think,
is a
again,
condition.
and
There's more certainty that the whole world will know if there's a deed restriction, that's all.
there may be, right?
What if we have the text amendment worded the
Right, this board is free to continue this as well.
You change it next month. You change your whole ordinance next month.
Yeah, how about if we do this? I understand, we're anxious to get moving, obviously, and how about if something is recorded that isn't entitled deed restriction, but it's recorded, so that it puts somebody on notice with regard to this property that says, Jim Garrity delivered this letter to Matt Callen in the township, and the letter says X, Y, Z. That's going to show up in every single title report. But it isn't going to be called a deed restriction. That's all. I mean, it's notice, it's constructive. Anything you record is constructive notice to the next buyer, if there isn't ever a next buyer.
Now,
I'm sorry, I just, and again, this conditional use that we're seeking tonight.
you're not a conditional use tonight, you're asking for a zoning change.
Fine. The conditional use we're going to seek, it will be conditional use for the whole property. To do anything outside of that conditional use would require future decisions by the board to modify that conditional use. We are locking in, I just want to be quite clear, the conditional use will limit how we build future density on the site. The conditional use is not for the project, it's for the entire asset, the entire parcel, right? So anything we do with the conditional use will be restrictive for future development on the property. I mean, that's what we're agreeing to. I heard it loud and clear last time, and that's what we want to do, that's what we plan to do, and that's how we're planning on proceeding. So
I get that, and I.
you're gonna get
and I
everything
thank
you
for
want
that.
in the conditional use.
I
There's
guess
nothing else we can do.
I'm just wondering, though, 15 years later, someone else owns the property, none of us are here, how do we know that,
You'd have to change the conditional use.
Paul won't be here either?
I know, but you wouldn't be, like, I'll give you an example. We have a, can I?
Because if it's
can I-
not in our text amendment,
Kip, respectfully, so we have a project in another township, right, in Pennsylvania, where we are still living by a 1953 zoning board conditional use that restricts adding 1 square foot to the property. And we cannot get around that in any way, shape, or form without a public hearing, the zoning hearing board, and the commissioners to support modifying that zoning decision. And that's essentially what's going to happen at our conditional use hearing. We will be limited for future development to 45 feet at the shopping center.
And just so everybody's aware, no matter what we do,
It can be changed.
any board later on can
agree,
change it.
and I'm fine with
And
that.
we
I just want to make sure they know
I'm
about it.
just saying, we just did that with Chipotle. Okay,
Yep.
exact same thing. We overruled what the boards for years.
Which was a deed restriction that was
Right,
placed on by
that's
a
how we-
previous board.
Know
Which is
that.
even tougher. We did it really easy. Okay, so it's a matter of, I feel, I'm okay with the conditional use because it is recorded through the zoning office. And we will see that if they come
Correct,
back.
and any
to
other
do
building
We stop them from planting trees
Oh,
by
yeah.
the conditional use. Well, we didn't stop from tearing them down. You cut the trees down, Paul Patel was over there and stopped the whole project because Paul went back to the builder's agreement and the last thing. So any of this, that department is the only department really that sees this when they come back in. So.
So if someone else were to come back in,
And file an application,
they,
it would
and
get
file an
denied.
application, Paul,
Correct.
the zoning department would pull up
Correct.
every single,
They would. know
Yeah,
that.
absolutely.
use.
It happens
Okay.
all the time, unfortunately too often. So, yes.
So right now, this was just supposed to be more informational, correct? With that, and you tell me if I'm right or wrong.
Sure.
We have an offer from them.
Why don't we read the offer into the record, just so we have it?
There you go.
They handed us a letter, so let's just all be,
I have a copy.
Oh, I thought you already got it.
why don't you just read it into the record so we have, can I have my copy just so I have it in front of me?
I thought I gave you.
Thanks.
You know, you didn't see it. You didn't see it yet?
Oh, I'm sorry?
You didn't see that yet?
No.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
That's why right. There was a conversation between Alex and Jim, but nothing like this.
Okay.
Yeah. And one more thing I did want to clear up. If you notice, there's no court reporter here this evening, and that was an oversight, not an oversight.
They were supposed to be here.
Court reporter didn't here. So what I suggested we do, Jim, is I'm going to have the court reporter watch the video. We'll transcribe this hearing, and I just wanted to see if that's okay with you.
It's perfectly.
Okay, just so everybody understood, and we have it for the record.
As the board and Sean
Yeah.
knows, you're not even required.
You're not
to have a
required, it's a
court
good
Yeah.
practice.
It's a good practice.
Yes, exactly. All right.
But that's fine. Yeah, we don't care about that.
If you would go through that letter.
I would, I'd be happy to. First of all, the first paragraph just says that I'm talking about the Willow Grove Shopping Center owned by Federal Realty. I represent them, and I'm authorized to make the statement set forth in the letter. Second paragraph says that the ordinance under consideration, Ordinance 1739, would allow buildings to go up to 85 feet under the conditions set forth in that ordinance. And then it says, through your solicitor's office, through a phone call I did receive from Alex this morning, I was made aware that the board's concern, just like it was when I was here for the first hearing, was how do we make sure that this is the only 85-foot tall building on this site for a mixed-use purpose. And then the last paragraph says, I therefore provide this letter to you in my role as counsel for Federal Realty Investment Trust, confirming that we are agreeable to and will not appeal a condition being placed upon the conditional use decision for our present mixed-use project that any other residential building on the shopping center property, if such application should even occur, will not seek to take advantage of any height bonus provisions either permitted by the current ordinance or by ordinance 1739. So that takes us from 85 down to 65 down to 45, because the 65 is only under the current ordinance pursuant to bonus provisions. Said, and then I say, said in somewhat simpler language, new applications for residential structures on the Willow, or mixed-use structures on the Willow Grove Shopping Center property, other than, of course, the current proposal, shall not be permitted to exceed 45 feet in height except in the sole discretion of a majority of the Board of Commissioners.
Okay, the only thing that I'm just going to clarify, and I think I did the last time, when we're talking 85 feet, that is not where we measure from. When it comes to our zoning, Paul takes it from the street level. So the 85 is a number that's in here, but really the other one is what we're concerned with, was the 72, which I think we're okay with. That's the way we measure it.
72 is one park, 85 is in the middle of the park.
That's right. So we measure from the curb
Into
lines.
their own property.
So that's why it's there. We're not approving 85 feet out on the street and everything. There's two numbers there. That was for a reference. That's why that 85 was in there.
Commissioner, can we, are you 100% positive that that's where that's being taken from, considering we have 2 new streets being developed on this property?
That is their problem. They have to measure from there.
Well, no, what I'm asking is,
They're not dedicated streets.
I just want to make sure that's stated, right? Because we have Park Avenue, and then we're going to have Willow Grove Lane and Salix Drive, and I just want to make
Neither
sure
of which are public
dedicated
streets.
public streets.
Right.
Okay.
My question is, this really started because somehow the word Moreland Road got into this description. Started out as Park Avenue and Easton Road, and then Moreland got mentioned. That got us to worrying, does this apply to the rest of the shopping center?
I realized that was the case. What I tried to do, quite honestly, is stay as close as I could to your current ordinance and not modify it too much. And your current ordinance says 3 streets. So I had to come up with a 3rd street, and that's how Moreland got in there.
Okay.
Just to make it,
Well, for the
that it
bonus, for the height bonus, it has 2 streets.
Two-state highways.
if you remember, we had this same discussion.
We did.
At the first
I'd like
hearing.
to see what you're looking at that says 3 streets.
Well, my ordinance that I have right here, which is version 10 of that ordinance, says it has to be on a prominent corner and visible from, on a prominent corner means 2, I guess, but it says has to be visible from 3 prominent streets. And as you know, this was originally created for the other project up on Davisville and York, and I had to get a 3rd street, so that's why Moreland was in there. Not to say that isn't the logical location. That may be the logical location on the corner of Moreland and Park, if that ever happens. But if it ever happens, it's 45 feet, it's not 85.
Do you have the date, Mr. Garrity, of that ordinance?
I have a copy of the ordinance on which I have written, clean ordinance, including Brennan comments sent to Paul Bertel, and in the bottom left-hand corner, it says V10, version 10, and then beneath that, it says 931395-1.
Wait, repeat those numbers? That doesn't sound like, is that?
I'm sorry.
So, did you get this from, did you get this from E-code or something? Because I just want to make sure, because I have what I understand is the newest version of the zoning ordinance in front of me. And I'm agreeing with Commissioner Lockhart that it's 2 streets, not 3. So I just want to make sure that we're all using the same document and we're making our amendments to the same things.
The copy you have in front of you, Kip, what does it have? Sign?
In front of me.
I thought you had a,
Oh, you mean the letter?
yeah.
Section is that? No, the letter.
See, this though, this is not our zoning code. This is a revised ordinance. Right? Like this is
Yeah, that's the one you filed. I
Right.
think he's looking for our current ordinance.
yeah, which,
You were asking how it was
You're
modified,
looking.
how this modifies?
yeah, because if I'm looking at our up-to-date current ordinance on
Right.
E-code, which with today's date, pulling it off of the live service right this moment, there's 2 streets, Easton and York. And so
He's asking to add 3.
he's asking to add 3, but your reasoning for adding Moreland was because you stated that our most recent zoning ordinance includes 3 streets.
No,
But our most recent zoning ordinance does not include 3 streets.
that says there are two frontages on,
Easton and York.
correct.
Yeah.
We don't have frontage on Easton and York.
Correct.
Yeah, you do.
The property does.
Technically,
The building doesn't.
Right.
It doesn't really matter. I don't know that.
And again,
this
we're
all
not
matters
modifying
right
that
now.
one, we're creating a new one. Right, so maybe there's been confusion. We're adding a subsection to whatever, 35260, I think it is, as a third one, which brings us into compliance. Because right now, we are not, so 1 and 2 are the bonus provisions, right? We are not, our parcel and our proposed building does not comply with that. So we are creating a third section that will be added to the zoning text, for which then we comply. So comparing it to.
And that's what the
existing-
subject of this hearing is about.
Correct.
Or one of the
Yes,
subjects.
it's not modification of existing, it's adding a new section of the code to create a zoning category
Right.
for which our building complies. So to compare it to the existing stuff, while somewhat
Well,
relevant.
Right, we get that, but we were
Yeah,
comparing
but
it to what was there to see
I
what
know,
we're changing.
but we're not changing anything. See, I think that there lies the difference. We're
Well,
adding a new one, and we're
You're-
trying.
But you're making a new subsection to
Correct.
change the requirements for you. That's what we were just referring to and looking.
Correct, so I think.
Yeah, I get it.
So again, if this zoning text, this version 10 that you see and you have in front of you, that's the text with which we will be in compliance with.
Yep.
1 and 2, because 850 feet and the prominent corner, which the building is not on a prominent corner. So we had to modify that text by creating a new one, 35260.
I got it.
And that's where we are, that's where we're living right now.
I get it. Our concern was just how that came about, because we asked multiple times, why is Moreland Road added? And they kept, and the comment was that we were just going with what you already had, which said visible from 3 streets, and it didn't. It said visible from 2 streets. So again, we're not getting the answer. We weren't getting an explanation.
But in any case, this will apply to the whole property.
Correct.
Yes.
Yep.
Yep,
Plus the whole
yeah, I think
property.
we're all in agreement
It always
now.
is.
Yeah.
It has to.
Yeah.
Correct.
I think we're in the agreement that you're in agreement that you won't build another building, you'll put it in conditional use, you'll put it on land development. Any other,
And we'll have this letter marked as township exhibit. And hearing what the board, if they're satisfied with this letter, myself and Mr. Garrity will work on another document that doesn't say deed restriction, that will be recorded to memorialize whatever the conditional use approval is. And that'll be it, and that could be
Okay.
recorded.
okay, now, so that's where we are. I
Yeah.
think this board is, right now, we either have to decide, are we happy with what we have seen across the street with that building at 72 instead of 65? And everybody's got to remember, everywhere in Willow Grove, in the downtown TC1 district, they can go 65 feet if they meet the conditions. Any other property, all of them, through the middle of Willow Grove. That's the zoning that's here now. I didn't agree with it then, Kevin did it, that doesn't matter. What do we want to see across the street? Are we okay with this? Does this board have faith that their letters that they're saying, and they're going to put on record, is that, are you agreeable to do that since they have offered that? That's the issue, is I think all of us didn't want to see another 65, 70-foot building. We wanted to see the lower, regular code without the additional bonus things. That's for us to decide. Is there any other information that this board would like to ask in that respect?
Good.
So we'll mark this as the next township exhibit. I don't have this right in front of me. The number, we'll go ahead and get that. So what you need to do is obviously see if there's public comment. We asked to go ahead and limit that based on new information that was presented tonight, and see if there's anybody in the public that would like to go ahead and hear about this before the board would close the hearing.
Okay, and before we get there, that letter and those three things that you just discussed, are you okay with that? Are you
Yes,
comfortable?
I'm okay with that.
Okay, that's
And
what I
Mr.
wanted
Garrity
to-
agrees to it, we're okay.
And you two have to be the ones that.
Yeah, we're basically there.
Okay. Anybody else from the public that would like to speak on this?
Good evening, Commissioner Sue Barthelmana, Cathedral Road, Ward 6. I just wanted to ask what's the impact of this change in terms of anybody else in the downtown being able to build to this? What would come before either zoning, you, APA? How would that work? Would we have another request for another kind of building?
72 foot.
If they,
Sorry, Commissioner?
if they could get the square footage of properties, just like the station did. Okay, they didn't have enough square footage, they went and bought up more property. So
Remember.
all of those other things apply here, just like they did for the last 20 years.
Okay.
Anywhere in Willow Grove, downtown, Weinrich's block, if somebody bought the whole block, they could probably do the same thing.
I think this new height bonus, I looked at it, I mean, they're adding Park Avenue. I don't think that it applies to any other properties.
But any other property can,
They can per the section that's already here, number 2.
Right.
I'm saying the number 3 that they're adding, I don't think it makes
no,
a change for
that
any
is,
other.
that is only so we'll let them go the 72 feet
Okay.
on that property.
If I heard what Mr. Garrity read in the letter, I heard the word residential building as a reference point to what is being built there. How about if they want to put another building up that's not considered, that wouldn't be residential?
Exactly what we're
That-
talking about.
It would be an office building of some sort.
That is
Can they go
exact-
up to 70, whatever, 85 feet, whatever?
That is exactly what we're talking about. They are only allowed to go for that, with that building. All the rest of it goes back to the regular zoning without provisions, to go higher than 45.
that letter
They're allowed
does-
to do it.
Did
The bonus height is for an apartment building.
And didn't
Okay.
your letter, Mr. Garrity, also state mixed use? Yeah.
I heard,
But I can clarify that, if Sean wants that clarified, mixed use, so that any building like this one, residential or mixed resident. This building's mixed.
What is your concern?
just that if it has to be a residential
Oh, no,
unit and somebody wants to put a straight office building up, then this wouldn't cover that because the word residential was used. No one's going to sleep in their office anymore, I pray to God, anyway.
there's, all that is for that building. The rest of the zoning stays, all the other lower sections and all stay. So if they did another one, it would be whatever that is, whether it's retail, office, or residential, it reverts back to TC1, because the rest of it stays the same, all TC1.
Okay.
For
I
that.
love the project. It's just that
That's our concern.
the sense of what's going to be across the street is a little overwhelming. So, okay. Thank you for the clarifications. I appreciate it.
Sure. Any other public comments? Okay, are we comfortable with closing this hearing, or do you have another question?
Motion to close?
Okay, we have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to close the public hearing for ordinance 1739. That is done. We will go to our regular meeting. Just if anybody is curious, 1739 will come up underneath community development later for a vote, whether it's yes or no. It'll be voted on when it comes up through the agenda. So we're done there. Start a regular meeting. Public comments, non-agenda items only. No one? Treasurer's activity report.
I make a motion to approve the treasurer's activity report for February 2023.
Okay. Second, anybody?
Second.
Okay, motion second. Discussion? Public comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Against? Okay. Motion passes. We're approved. Approval minutes?
A motion to approve the minutes from the regular meeting on February
6th.
6th.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion from the board? No. Any discussion from the
Minutes were
public?
fine.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Against? Opposed? So moved, approved. Committee recommendations. Finance and Administration Committee, Mr. Valenz is not here tonight. Ms. Lockhart will take it.
Okay, just before that, Charles.
Thank you. Okay.
Okay. The Finance and Administration, I'm sorry, yes, the committee recommends approval of the following checks. General fund checks number 136808 and ending with 137034 for a total of $738,477.63.
Second.
Okay.
Escrow fund
Oh,
checks,
she went to them all.
beginning with 9567, ending with 9574, for a total of $1,319.88. And liquid fuel fund checks, beginning with 3051, ending with 3053, total of $11,814.33.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion, a second. Any discussion? Any public discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Against? Abstain? So moved, approved.
Okay, next, a motion to approve the tax assessment appeal between the township, the school district of Upper Moreland, and the taxpayer AMEJ Partners LP for the property located at 2700 Turnpike Drive.
Second.
So this is an appeal that the school district filed. They've reached a negotiated agreement, and they're asking us to approve it.
Okay, any questions from the board? Any questions from the public? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Against? Abstain? Motion passes. Approved.
Okay, next motion to approve Resolution R-2023-07, authorizing the sale of surplus police vehicles. We discussed it, or it was discussed in committee, recommended by our chief and our director of finance as the best way to sell these police vehicles.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a first, a second. Any other discussion from the board? Any other discussion from the public? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Against? Abstain? Motion passes, approved.
Next motion to approve Resolution R-2023-08.
Yep. Second.
Motion, we have a second.
We just did it.
Oh, I didn't, yeah, authorizing the sale of surplus vehicles and equipment similar to the last thing. Was discussed in committee and recommended by the township staff.
Okay, any other commissioner? Public comments? No? All in favor, say aye.
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 Against? Abstain? Approved? No new business.
We have to go back to appointments.
Thank you.
Okay,
No new business.
okay.
We have to go back to appointments? Didn't do that.
What's up? Oh, go back. There were, okay.
There were not.
There are no appointments or reappointments.
Very good.
At this
There
meeting.
was one.
Okay, before I go any farther, Charles warned us, Since we forgot, executive session, we met in executive session earlier for legal issues right before this meeting. Thank you, Charles. Next, community development, Mr. Spearman.
Okay. First thing I'd like to do, we have no code enforcement issues, no land development subdivision applications, and a list of upcoming zoning hearing applications. We have one. Public hearing number 23-66, petition of Yuki Brothers for property located 1840 County Line Road, Suite 107, Huntington Valley. Applicant seeks a variance from Uppermoreland Township Code for an automotive vinyl wrap and body kit installation business. This business is located in a small limited industrial district. The hearing is Thursday, March 9th at 7:30 in this room. Next agenda item will be the Community Development Committee recommends Ordinance 1739, granting approval of text amendments by Uppermoreland Township Zoning Code filed by Federal Realty Investment Trust, conditioned upon conditional use.
A motion, we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any further discussion from the board?
I'll read the rest of this summary. Community Development Committee meeting September 19th, public hearing, regular meeting February 6th, and public hearing, regular meeting tonight. An applicant for proposed text amendment for Uppermoreland Township Zoning Code has been filed by Federal Realty Investment Trust, owner of several parcels of land located at the intersection of Easton Road, Moreland Road, and Park Avenue in the Uppermoreland Town Center 1 district, in order to facilitate the redevelopment of land in the town center into a mixed-use residential and retail complex with the property formerly known as Willow Grove Shopping Center, in keeping with the Willow Grove redevelopment and revitalization plans of the township.
Any other comments from the board?
I do have a question about how we're going to vote on these ordinance changes. Are we voting for the entire revised ordinances one package? Or are we going to take individual sections?
It would be one as whole.
It's one whole.
One whole. Okay.
Okay, it's not a question, it's a comment. I'm glad they're here. I'm tired of looking at the building for the last 30 years that it did not, they tried redoing it once. They're old buildings. I'm glad they're finally redoing the whole shopping center. It's been a long time with nothing changed in the middle of Willow Grove except for the building on Davisville Road and York Road. I welcome it. I think Kevin and I've checked out other places that they have done. They do tremendous work in their where they've been. I'm glad you came back and agreed not to build anything else over the 45 feet. I thank you for that, just for clarification. With that, I'll ask anybody else.
I have a couple comments I'd like to make.
Okay.
Yeah. So this has been a great process. We've worked very well together. We've gone back and forth, thrown some punches back and forth, and it's been really good. I've also seen some of your other properties. You do beautiful work, and I'm really excited for what's going to come to Willow Grove here. Your focus on the community spaces, on the diversity of building type and functionality of the parcel is going to make it really a worthwhile location within our township. With all that being said, I have vocalized my opposition to the height on this building since day one, and I still am opposed to the height of this. I know that it's a conditional use, but I disagree with the concept of that conditional use, especially at this parcel. But with that, I look forward to the project. I look forward to everything that's coming. And thank you for working so well with us throughout the process.
Okay.
I would like to apologize for my somewhat resistance. I've been interested in the historical community in Upper Moreland, and when I moved here 30 years ago, there were a lot of buildings you consider historic. There's only one left, two left. One is the Aaron Ford building, which is just really just a facade, and the other one is the building that is a thorn in your project that used to be the bank of Old York Road, and it's not worth saving. But my point is, when you press, oh, it's going to be time and money. Yeah, but these changes are forever. And I'm just sorry to see so much of the historic town gone.
It was a Legion before it was the bank.
No, it's next door.
Oh, it was next door.
Next door.
Legion was in the parking lot.
Lot,
Yeah,
that's
right.
Next door, okay.
I only know that from,
pictures. I saw a picture of that cannon too.
Thank you for the correction.
visualized in the pamphlet.
Okay, any other public
I'm
comment?
very excited about this land development, and I look forward to it. I know you can't please all the people all the time, but we really, really, really need this change, and I'm very excited about it, so thank you.
Can I say something quickly?
Quickly?
I just want to thank you for your support. Like, this process, as you said, can be lengthy and somewhat contentious, but with the support of the commissioners, we are looking forward to investing additional dollars here to revitalize downtown, and the current phase is now only the beginning, and obviously when hopefully we execute phase 3, the product will be a benefit to the community and a place where everyone can, happy, hang out, congregate, and it'll be a real boon for the local economy. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, no other questions, nothing else from the board. Well, for the ordinance 1739, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
One nay. With that, so moved, it's approved. Oh, you done? Kevin?
Yeah,
You done? Okay.
that completes the business of the Community Development Committee.
Thank you.
Then, Public Health and Safety Committee?
Yes, this time, Public Health and Safety Committee has nothing to bring before the Board of Commissioners.
Charles gets everything done before it gets here. Parks and Recreation Committee, Mr. Scull.
Yes, the Parks and Recreation Committee would like to approve the Arbor Day proclamation.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion?
Commissioner Fatler, just to point out, there are two proclamations, one for 2022 and one for 2023.
Yeah, we are allowed to backdate the one,
Yeah.
so. Okay, anybody from the public on that? Questions? No? All in favor, say aye.
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 Against? Abstain? So moved, approved.
Okay, just let me move down here.
Kidding me?
Okay, the Parks and Recreation Committee would like to move forward approval of the Woodlawn Park draft master plan.
Second.
This has certainly been discussed in committee, in public, extensively. So I hope it's time to move it ahead.
Okay, any comments from the public? Good, if you want.
Thank you. I just once again want to recognize all the hard work of the steering committee that was appointed by the President Board of Commissioners. Numerous steering committee meetings, several public meetings, a lot of thought, a lot of homework, and some wonderful ideas. Outstanding job of listening to the neighbors, the focus groups, the stakeholders, and also the folks who responded in the survey. So I would like to publicly thank the steering committee for all of their hard work to present the plan which is before you.
Put on record who you are. I'm kidding, I'm kidding. Okay, any other public?
Also the Parks and Recreation Department, a lot of work, thank you.
Any other?
Good comment, yeah. So we had a lot of input for this, and I appreciate that. And there was a lot of people that were disappointed that, you know, the final draft, they felt like they weren't listened to. But there were so many people involved and so many different issues. It's very important to hear all those issues. So even the people who were disappointed, I want to thank you for all your work and your contributions. And you didn't get what you wanted, but we did hear you, and your comments helped us get where we are.
Okay, any public comments?
I have a
Oh,
comment too.
I'm sorry.
Everything everybody else said, it goes without saying. My only apprehension with this draft plan, and again, it's a draft, and it's only at this moment, is the concept of the community center located here at Woodlawn Park. While we continue to brainstorm options for locations for that community center, I think we should really bold and conceptualize that draft idea. The rest of this park, I think, has really gone a long way, and it's going to be great for the community, but in my personal opinion, it is an improper location for a community center. So as we develop this further and as we potentially push this forward with this vote, I want my fellow commissioners in the community to continue to vocalize support for a community center, but for additional options.
Thank you.
Okay.
I agree. Just want to say I agree, Anthony. I hope we find another location, and that the community center can be replaced with more natural area and maybe another pavilion, since it's,
And less parking.
and less what?
Less parking.
Yes, right.
Okay, any other comments? Okay. All in,
Oh, you know what we didn't ask? Was there any comment from anybody
I asked
over
them
the
first,
30?
you guys
did
just
ask
kept
that?
jumping in.
There were no comments received by the consultants. The only comment I heard was from a local resident neighbor who said that at the neighborhood meeting, the neighbors did not want parking in the park, which was correct at that time. Subsequent meetings from then, I think that meeting was in June, when we met with public and with the neighbors, the comments were, well, wait a minute, if they don't have any parking in the park, then they're going to park in front of my house and block my driveway, and I don't want that either. So that's why you see some parking along Division. You also see some parking in the park. That was mainly, the parking in the park was mainly for the recreation center if it was built.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we have a motion. You seconded, right, correct, Kevin?
Yeah, we did. I second the
Okay.
motion.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Against? Abstain? So moved, approved.
All right, Mr. Chairman, next is Resolution R 2023-09, Woodlawn Park Grant Applications. At the February 27th, 2023 meeting of the Parks and Recreation Committee, the committee recommends to the Board of Commissioners approve Resolution R 2023-09, accepting the terms and conditions of the DCNR for the Woodlawn Park Phase 1 development.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any questions from the board? It's been discussed in committee.
Does everybody understand what the phasing was? Do all of my fellow commissioners understand what the phasing of
I
1,
do.
2, and
It's-
3 was?
We have it. Do you want Pat to give it again?
No, I'm okay.
Okay.
Just want to make sure.
Yeah.
And nothing's changed with that from our conversation last time? Okay.
Okay, any public comment? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Against? Abstain? So moved, approved.
Okay, next we have a motion to approve the professional services of Simone Collins for $10,000 to prepare grant applications for the Woodlawn Park Phase 1 development.
Second.
We have a motion, and we have a second. Again, this is for them to find grants to maximize the money we have set aside already to be able to finish this, this phase 1.
Whoa. Oh, phase 1, okay.
Some applications are due in April 2024, 2023. If approved, we will be applying for 1 million or through DCNR and 250,000 through DCED. The township's match for these grants is in place through a previous bond issue.
Okay, any public comment? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Against? Abstain? So moved.
Okay. I'm getting so good at this. Okay, the last motion is
You second this one.
to approve the professional services for adaptive reuse of the barn at Farmstead Park. The barn at Farmstead Park presents an opportunity for an adaptive reuse. While many options have been discussed over the many years, none have been performed in the past 10 years. Specifically, we want to review the possible adaptive reuse as a recreation building. A recreation building was noted as needed in our 2007 Comprehensive Parks and Recreation Plan, and the topic remained a high desire as we went through the Woodlawn Park Master Plan process. If approved, the architect's proposal will include an examination of the current barn, proposed additions to the structure to allow for a gymnasium, and construction costs associated with all renovations and additions. And the cost of that study would be $10,000.
Second.
A motion, we have a second. Any discussion from the board?
Not just the 2007 comprehensive plan, but all previous comprehensive plans identified the need for a recreational center in the township.
And a particular study that was done in, I guess, 2004 by Simone Collins of further uses of the property. And this would have been one of them.
My only question is there are two proposals in here for an architectural firm. So, I do not see a recommendation for which one that we're moving ahead.
So, post you receiving your information, I've received qualifications from both contractors. And I'm familiar with both of them, reviewing the work of both of them. I also, since you've received your information, talked with Alan Sentment from the Farmstead Alliance, and
I can tell you the names.
The recommendation would be for Mark Thompson Associates, who actually has done a lot of work at Farmstead Park, evaluating the structures, and is currently assisting us with our roof replacements at those facilities. So they've done a lot of work on these types of structures in the past. I have their packet here. They've recently completed a historic structure similar to a barn and converted it into a recreation building as well. So they have the qualifications, as does the other firm. At this point, we're recommending Mark Thompson Associates to lead this project.
Okay. I'm surprised by that. I thought it was going the other way, but okay.
Any other questions from the board?
You mean the guy that got the name wrong?
What?
The other entity that got the name wrong and called it Boileau Park?
Yeah. Well, whatever.
Fair enough.
And I can say, Pat, also, I know of this firm, and I know they're closely associated with the Fairmont Park Restoration Trust, and I support them as well.
I'm sure the other entity is very reliable.
Sure.
Has done a ton of great work.
Okay, any other questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Against? Abstain? So moved? Approved. Let's-
Ta-da!
Should be it,
Almost there.
unless you have something else.
No, the Parks and Rec Committee has no further recommendations for the board.
Okay. Any other commissioner comments?
Yeah. For the last 2 consecutive years, Upper Moreland Township has successfully, without conflict and in all the community, raised a pride flag. And I would like to move that we do it again. Could I don't expect action here, I just want
Okay.
to make that recommendation.
That's what okay.
So you would like to place it on a future agenda, is that what you're saying?
Yes, I would.
And what would be the time frame that you'd like the pride flag flown?
For the month of June, like we have done in the past.
Okay.
Okay, any other comments from commissioners? Mine is only, like you said, Chief, 9 more months and we won't have all these questions. So, okay, meeting's adjourned.